I had a really interesting topic that I wanted to talk about today. I hope to make this a multi-episode series for the channel. It's about my personal input on life, especially on vehicles and cars. There's two things I like in this world: women and vehicles. And, well, firearms, but, that's not for everybody. But I love cars. I think cars are amazing. I'm just going to be honest, modern cars are just getting uglier. And this is this is mainly being seen from BMW. I own a BMW. I think it looks great, but this was a 2011 3 Series. We're talking about like these new crazy not spoilers, grills, and like all this and that. Like, take a peek at. Oh boy. So when we say modern, I mean anything from 1989 to today. Even though those might be considered older cars by today's standards, they really set the precedence for modern cars. If you go back and you look at, oh geez, how do I say this? If we, it's a really tough thing to try to explain. But I'm going to try my best to articulate it. If you go back and look at the 90s Le Mans, Pontiac Le Mans, and you're like, it looks okay. It's ugly. It's an economy car. Then you go back to like the mid 60s at that Pontiac Le Mans. I mean, go ahead and pull up a picture of the two next to one another. Yeah. Now, one car that throughout history underwent some strange changes, but still remained a pretty good look, was the Mustang. Now, when the Mustang 2s came out, they were not really like that popular for their times. So, even though we like to go back with nostalgia, like some of the older cars do look pretty ugly. And I mean older cars. I mean, for instance, I think we can go back and, there are some ugly cars out there. There are older. So not all old cars are perfect, but to say, for instance, that this was the quality of old cars. I think this is one of the older cars in the game. Yeah, it's the Chevy Bel Air. It's a 57, I think. It's a 55. So it's a 55 Chevy Bel Air. And, just look at the general quality of this thing. Like, you don't really get a whole lot of interior looks here, but I can go ahead and tell you the interior build quality is probably top of the line for Chevy. Now, this is the era of Chevy that I personally like. As much as I shit on Chevy on the channel and in general, and I don't really like Chevys too much, not in particular, I can't help but let's just pull this out real quick. Let's just drive around with this. This thing is just iconic. This is a true staple of American industry back in the day. This was an affordable car, and it looked nice, and it's really held its value throughout the years. Even though if you take a look at its body style next to this car I'm about to drive next to, they look clearly different. The older model looks boxier and has more, can easily be put into a shipping container. It looks very organized and well put away. But if we look at the car next to us, we notice that it has a more bubbly, circularly, more curves than it does straight lines. And the lines and the body style have to be not only consistent and well proportioned, they have to be, they have to be entertaining. You have to like the way that it looks. It has to look in such a way that's interesting. We see a lot of this on exotic cars. Mainly like Ferraris and stuff like that come up with really nice body styles. There are a few ugly ones, but those are like the 80s, like the Mundell, I think is what it's called. I don't know, that was like a lesser looking Ferrari. I still think it's a good looking car. It looks better than some of the stuff that's coming out now. But yeah, So cars look way uglier now. So we're gonna go to this dealership real quick to pull up some examples of Need for Speed. I think though you're gonna have to look at a modern car catalog and look at a used car magazine to buy old cars. Volkswagen Golf. Back in the day, not gonna lie, even today, this car looks pretty ugly. Some people like them, some people hate them. I'm more toward the hate, but I don't just indiscriminately hate this car. I mean, Volkswagen are known for like reliability issues, but these things are kind of fun. They're fun to drive. They're a unique experience, but they're not a quality experience. And nor does the outside look of the car look great. So if you actually look at the way that the car is cut, it's almost cut at a slight angle when it comes from the fender down. From the front corner, it's cut in such a weird way. I would almost describe it as like that DeLorean body style almost. How it's cut like that. Not entirely, but it's not anywhere nearly as great looking as the DeLorean. But it has its style to it. Now, a car like this Nissan Fairlady, this 70s car, this has a very sleek body style to it. I like how it starts how it does in almost like a bubbly kind of shape, right? It's just sort of, it has curves, and then it sort of gets more squared off in the center before having this sort of over curve. It almost has like a Corvette style look to it almost. And that, and I'm talking about the old Corvettes here. So yeah, no, this body style looks really nice. And then the hood, this is pleasant to look at. This is entertaining to the eyes. So that's a plus. The Plymouth Barracuda. Let me say that again. The Plymouth Barracuda. Back when Plymouth was an American car brand, I mean, this thing rivaled, I'm going to say, the Dodge Chargers back in the day, like the 69, 68 Dodge Chargers. This thing rivaled them in looks. They both looked very similar, and they both are very stylish. They clearly have this, nice body style to them. The reason that it's nice is actually if you look at the front, it's very squared away, but yet so simplistic, but yet so elegant. Look at how the headlights are in the corners, and then you have all that grille space in between, and then going from the hood, it sort of curves up a little bit, and then it flattens as it goes back. But then notice how that same thing is sort of consistent along the edge. And then if you look down or all around the headlight, it's sort of that, the way it's lined up is just so nice that you can see it in the middle of the door is where the lines meet, and where they meet it's sort of lined away in such a way. I mean, this body style is really nice, so that the bottom half where the lines meet, the bottom half gets slanted downward while the top half gets slanted upwards or angled toward the window. So that is really cool. And then you can see the second half where the roof of the car is placed, and it's kind of like a bubble-ish shape, but it's more flat around the top, but not perfectly flat. I don't know, man. That's really nice. This car's style is consistent. Now, if we were to go look at the Dodge Challenger, or not Challenger, Charger, 69 Charger, it has that similar thing where but it's way more squared. But yeah, it's very similar. Now, they're both unique, right? They both have very different body styles. The roof styles are different. But now let's look at some modern cars. First, we're going to start with the 2000 Honda Civic. This thing, I'm going to consider it modern. Some people like them. I literally don't like it. It looks like an SUV. It's a compact SUV. It looks gross. First of all, the headlights, the bulbs themselves are really large, which is not very good for the size of the actual headlights themselves. Secondly, you have that weird looking grill. It's I don't know, man. It's not large enough, and it doesn't have enough depth to it. It doesn't seem like it doesn't have any intricate designs or any style to the grill. Underneath that looks to be a larger grill, and it just sort of has the opposite problem. But I don't think that that's an actual grill, though. I'm not entirely sure. Now, it's front-wheel drive, so on a technical aspect, this car needs a slightly wider turn radius to turn into things. However, they handle pretty alright in the snow. Despite me preferring a four-wheel drive with snow tires, and potentially a truck or SUV, but cars can still handle the snow just as well as any other car can. Then, of course, you have this single exhaust on the bottom there, on the driver's side. Oh, did I mention the driver's side on this model is going to be on the right-hand side? Yeah, so it's only on the Type R model, but this is a Japanese exclusive vehicle. It's not that we didn't see this type in the US, this type of body style, it's just not the Type R, I don't think. I don't know much about Honda, so don't quote me on that. I have no idea. But this is a 4-cylinder, it's a 4-banger, generating, I think, was it 110 horsepower? These things are really low in horses. Like these things are not powerful at all. The original Civics are really old. I believe they came out in the mid-70s, I believe, during that fuel crisis, and they only generate like 88 horsepower. Like they were dog shit, bro. They've been dog shit since the day they were built. They're only keeping up with the times now. They've improved, but not by much. I don't like how the front of the car hangs over, and then the back of the car is super chunky and wide in the back. But it's so it's like a sedan in the front. I don't like that. It doesn't look consistent. Also, the body style, like the front half, it looks okay. It looks like it could be a cute little sedan or something. And then, of course, you turn to the back and it's like, what's all this? Okay, so see the hatchback element of this? The way that's done just looks gross. To make matters worse, it comes with a spoiler. Like this car has no aerodynamics at all. Like, why would you need a spoiler on a car that's not aerodynamic? Okay, now this is a 1996. I said the late 80s to the early, or I said modern would be, we'll bump that up, early 90s, so 92 till now are like going to be modern in my opinion, because some of those 90s cars are still being driven on the road today predominantly. So yeah, this car looks alright. So this is an example of an alright looking sports car of its time. It's not too ugly in the sense that it's bad to look at. The body style on the side, it looks average. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Like, it's nothing too impressive. It's nothing to write home about. I mean, there's a lot of cars that had a similar style of side body, to it at this time. So that was a trend back then, and I mean, it's all right. Like it's pretty cutaway. It looks nicer than some of the stuff being put out today. Now we're gonna go look at more modern cars for obvious reasons. So here we go. This is a 2010 Subaru. Pretty much the same kind of concept, hatchback. And you're going to see a lot of these SUVs and hatchbacks and stuff like that. I think they just look gross, okay? Well, for one, this thing has this really strange front end. I mean, the front end looks nice. The whole car kind of... the lines and where the body pops out, where it goes, it looks like it's doing too much, honestly, here. Same issue with the spoiler. I just don't like that on there. The other thing is the rear bumper area here. It's just, there's nothing really going on. mean, yeah, you got the quad exhaust system, which looks kind of cool, but from the side perspective, especially like the rear fender, it just looks weird. Weird is what I'd describe this car, and I'd put it like a 4 out of 10 total rating. Now we have the 2016 Volkswagen Golf. We looked at the older model and it looked way too minimalistic, and it still has the same issue. So this time around you get a sunroof, which I'd give it an extra 2 points for styling. Sunroofs are kind of cool. It has a spoiler. Again, it's a hatchback with a spoiler, so it's trying to be sporty, which would actually give it a style point, but I'm going to say it takes away from styling by 1 point. Because it's a spoiler on a hatchback, it doesn't make sense to me. It looks ugly. It doesn't look like it belongs. I think without the spoiler on there, and if it were a little bit longer in the back, shorter in the front, maybe. The headlights look okay. They kind of remind me of like the BMW headlights a little bit, but not really. Like there's something missing there. Both German car brands, so I'm not too surprised. They have these like those front fins, but underneath the headlights, those 3 fins things. They're trying to add style, and I guess it sort of works. You look onto the side and it's mostly like flat with very minimal like angle, like yeah, there's like nothing going on there. It looks too plain Jane. I'll give this thing a 4 out of 10. It's boring. That's a 2006 Subaru WRX. So this thing has 2 spoilers. It has a roof spoiler and it has a rear, like a trunk spoiler. It only has a single exhaust pipe, which would have been cool if it had 2. But I don't like that style of exhaust where you get to see that weird, where you get to see all that back there. I like it. It's like it's just a straight pipe, something simple there. Looks cool. Something like that looks just too out there. The rear taillights look okay. The rims look fine. Now the body style itself looks okay. There are 2 cut lines. So the first one is above that STI or whatever that logo is down there. It's just above that, follows it throughout the door to the rear door, and then stops right before you get to the rear door. Then it has a second cut line underneath or second line of angling underneath the rear door, or door handle, and follows it all the way through consistently to the back where it touches the taillight right there. That looks pretty nice. It's pleasant to look at. Now the grill, I'm not digging this 3-prong grill setup with this hood scoop. The hood scoop looks cool, but honestly, dude, like it could have had like a cooler mesh design in between those like things. I think would have made it look more stylish. Now, as for these 3 grills, yeah, I'm not digging that. I would prefer it all to be one singular grill instead of it being divided into 3s, or 2 really large grill pieces with the logo in the center. Or the logo dividing them, I think, would look a little bit cooler. Underneath that, you can kind of see like the radiator and all that. I'm not a big fan of it being exposed like that. I'd much prefer that to be covered, or some sort of grill mesh or something to cover that a little bit. Maybe not to completely conceal it, but to sort of just conceal it a little bit, tuck it away. The thing on the side right there, right in front of the front tires before you get to that little gray thing sticking out, that little vent, that gray vent thing, it looks cool. I'm not gonna lie to you. I wish we had a rear vent thing like that on the rear fender, like right underneath the bumper here. You know, right there. I know, yeah, well, it's kind of right there. It's not really descriptive. So right after the rear tire onto the underneath the rear bumper, that area should have had a cool like grill thing that's cut into it. That would have been pretty stylish, honestly. I guess just for looks, I'm gonna go ahead and give this thing a 7 out of 10. It's all right looking. I like it. An older car is a BMW M3, and personally, yeah, no, so it's very squarish. The rear taillights look alright. They're nothing to write home about. It has a dual exhaust, but it's only on one side. I'm not really a fan of that. It's not perfectly symmetrical. It's not on both sides. That's a point deducted. But this body style is so interesting. So it's thinner in the center and wider around the hip. It's got all the right curves in all the right places, kind of thing. I'm a real big fan of the simplicity of the BMW M3 from the 70s. This is 88, my bad. This is a 1988 model. My bad, it's the 70s. The BMWs in the 70s look pretty good too. But I like how like the grills are like going horizontal toward the headlights, but in the center they're going vertically. I like that change in symmetry. That alone, coupled with the square, perfectly symmetrical front end, with it being kind of like with the hood sticking out and the sticking up a little bit in the center, with the BMW logo flat and it being in perfect alignment with everything else, looks really nice. The sunroof, the radio antenna thing looks kind of weird, but it actually came with a spoiler, which is kind of nice. I like that. The BMW rims here are simplistic, but they serve the purpose. It's a good wheelbase, and overall, dude, this thing looks nice. I like it. I really like it. This thing's very stylish. Now, that thing I told you guys about earlier, the whole bubbliness. Yeah, this is a 2019 370Z. It's a Nissan. This thing's very bubbly. I hate these rear taillights. Like look at these rear taillights. So see this trunk space? I think you call this a hatchback or something like that along those lines. It's not stylish. That's number one. It's not stylish. Now the brake light, I'm assuming is that like little light in the center, like so. You know, whatever, but the two exhausts down there, that's what I'm talking about. I like it when you just see the pipes. I don't like it when you see everything else. So that's kind of nice. Where the license plate is, that little cutout thing is kind of stylish. If it wasn't there, it would just be kind of flat and kind of bland. It's kind of nice that they had some sort of inconsistency there. But you look above that like rear light in the center above the logo, and that area just looks kind of weird. It looks off because it stops, but it's so bubbly and rounded, but it's flat, and then it follows the roof. Like the roof looks so small. It's mostly just surrounded by glass. This looks like it wants to be a micro Porsche. The other thing is those door handles stick out too much. They don't flow into the car, they just sort of stick out. They flop out of the car. That just looks inconsistent and gross. And then of course you have that weird Z logo on the side. I'm not a fan of that location. I wish they put that toward the rear actually, instead of right there. If they put that toward the rear, like behind that like little glass separating the glass that's facing away from the door, you know, toward the rear fender, that little piece, if that was behind that or something like that, or if it weren't on the car at all, would have looked better. Now the front of this thing just looks too minimalistic. It's bubbled down. It has the extra little fog lights down there because I think it has to for safety reasons. I don't think those are grills. Yeah, no, those are lights. Underneath that, it looks like you have like a very micro diffuser kind of, or splitter kind of thing underneath, but it looks like it's probably made out of like a cheaper plastic, so that's not stylish at all, and I don't think it really does anything. It's just for looks, and it doesn't look good. The stripe on the bottom, that's a cool looking stripe. You can see that little circular cutout right there on the rear fender on the passenger side. That's for your fuel. So that's kind of a weird thing, because that means when you go to pop that, it's gonna the shape of the where like the lid that you press in to open up the where you go to refill your car, that's gonna be curved at the same kind of angle as the fender and like the rear side, so it's gonna be shaped kind of weird. So that's just ugly. It's a bad spot to place it, honestly. But what are you gonna do when you have a body style like this? This thing's a disaster. Even from like the hood, where it sticks out in the center, it flows too much into the hood itself at the very front, and it expands as it goes backward, which is it's a weird design that sounds kind of neat on paper, but executed this way just looks nasty. And then you have that black thing in between to solidify it, like a pinstripe, a singular pinstripe. It just does not look good on this car, bro. I think it would look better without the pinstripe. Because at least then it would flow in better. Okay, now we go to the Ford Focus. Now this thing, I said it's not the ugliest SUV in the whole game. That's me being mostly nice. I have the same problem. Spoiler on these little things just looks ugly. The side profile looks okay. It suffers from what everyone else suffers from, but it has this really, like, it has the proper, I don't know, it has the same problem that Subaru SUV had, but this is a little bit more consistent. And this has a little bit more coming out, and it's more consistent. But it's still not great. You have this front end. I don't know why it had to be two-tone where the grill is. I don't know why there's that black thing in between. Why can't it all just be solid mesh? But underneath all that stuff is all mesh. I don't know why they had to have that RS. I don't know what you call that thing that sticks in the front of the... That just does not look good at all. That just looks disgusting. You have the underlights underneath the headlights toward the bottom of the bumper. Are those like little black things, and then you see those like little clear things. Those are lights. Those are cool placement, but the lights there, they don't look nearly as good. They don't look nearly as like powerful as like some of the other lights. Looking at it from the rear perspective, yeah. So this is. Yeah, those taillights just, well, they're not the worst, but, and I am a Ford guy, so it's just it's not me trying to be nice to Ford. I just, you know, they're not the worst, but they're not great. I like how they try to stay consistent with the rear fender design. I like that it's trying to stick out a little bit more, because the rest of the car doesn't have enough sticking out, so the taillights kind of stick out a little bit. So I don't know, for this car it works, but I don't know if other cars do this and it could be executed correctly, then maybe. But this car, I mean, it's something that sticks out and something that looks so plain and Jane. But yeah, dude, the front end dude, it looks like it wants to vomit. Like, it just does not look good. Yeah, this is an example of cars getting uglier, but no, the rear end is okay. That spoiler, that looks pretty gross. And for the same price, you get a 2015 Honda Civic Type R. Two things: puke. Second thing, oh my god, I'm gonna puke again. First of all, let's look at this thing. What would I describe this thing? How would I describe this? Like, how would I explain how this looks? It looks like a giant, like, mouse for a computer that you would, like, click on. That's the way to describe it. Like, I don't like the headlights. I don't like how the headlights flow with the front end, because the front end is just a sort of like, again, dude, this looks like my mouse. It looks like I can use this thing to point and click. It's not right. It's just not good at all. The front fender has those weird like little fins. That's stylish a little bit, but not too much. So yeah, so you have the same thing kind of like to what the Ford had a little bit with the headlights that sort of stick out a little bit, but these stick out a little bit too much. There's that ugly spoiler, but more importantly is like where it sits. It sits on a flat positioned thing that sits over the headlights. Like, I don't get that. Like, that just does not look right. Now, underneath all that by the exhausts, it has the quad exhausts. That whole bottom area looks alright, but the area on top of that, like where the license plate is and all that, does not look good. The side profile, I like where they put the thing where you pop it open to refuel, because that's not going to have a strange looking shape. The fin for the antenna fin right there on the roof, I like the fin. That's pretty stylish. But everything else, it's just looks just ugly. Like, it looks like an actual mouse. It looks like this is God's mouse for his keyboard, and he uses the windshield as like the thing you click on, and it's just, it looks like a mouse, dude. Like, I don't know how to explain it, dude. Like, it just does not look nice. It looks like a rodent. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this car just looks disgusting. Truthfully, truth be told, the modern muscle car kind of thing, we got a couple of these type of cars. Yeah, so we got a 2006 okay, alright, yeah, we got some cool stuff. Okay, finally. We got some cool stuff. Okay, so this is 2015 Mustang GT. This thing is awesome. Dude, I want one badly. The fact is, the electronic assisted, like, automatic transmission, it has different modes, and you can put it in sport mode and track mode. The track mode is super fast. Like, it's got power to it, man. Like, dude, the rear end, it looks pleasant. It has all the right curves, literally in all the right places. It has the right placement. It has a decent consistency with it. Now, where it did put the thing for you to refill will have a bit of a weird sort of body shape thing to it because of the like little cut line there. But I mean, that's all right though. I can live with that because it has a consistent look to it. I love the hood. Look at that. Like, it's perfect. It sits up a little bit, but not too much, but it's evenly cut in the center where it matches back down. It has this sort of lower part of the grill. It has a lower grill and an upper grill, and dude, the placement of everything here is just beautiful. This is a beautiful car. I rate this thing 10 out of 10 when it comes to looks. Now we have a 2016 Mercedes. This is the A45 AMG series. Dude, this thing suffers the same issue that the Honda Civic suffers from. And I'll give it one thing: it has a Mercedes logo on it. So yay, it's got one cool feature. Apart from that though, it's square-tipped quad exhausts. It looks alright. The spoiler, just get rid of it. The side profile is a little interesting. It has a very interesting cut line where it does like a swoop, and then like it levels out and then angles. So it's like perfect. It's, I don't know, man. It's unique. Headlights, they're alright. It's a Mercedes, but ooh, okay, finally a cool car. Another cool car, at least. 2006 BMW M3. What can I say? Alerted says, yo, what's up, man? I'm complaining about modern cars being completely and totally ugly. So this is an example of a more modern car that's not ugly. The taillights are kind of like my BMW has these kind of like taillights. Like mine are a little bit less detailed. Mine are a little bit less cool. The quad exhaust tips, those look perfect. The body style here is very squared and very even, uniform, well tucked away. It looks nice. This looks like a James Bond car, you know. I like that grille style. It's not like the modern BMWs where it's just over exaggerated, over the top. The headlights, perfecto. The hood, it's perfect. This car is very symmetrical. This thing is a piece of art to look at. Like, this thing is a luxury sports car. Like, this thing is, I don't know, man. There's a lot I could say about it. So we're going to go ahead and rate that easy 10 out of 10 like I did the Mustang GT back there. Okay, now we get to the Audi. Okay, we're going to go ahead and skip this one. I have pretty much the same thing to say about it. It's a little bit more modern. It's the stuff that keeps coming out. Then that BMW, I'll give it this. The sunroof on this one looks a little bit weird. I don't like that. I wish that it was just flat roof with an optional, like, you know, thing that you pull back as a sunroof or whatever. But yeah, no, the rear end's like, it's a sedan. I like the sedan body style. It looks nice. It's sporty. So let's skip all this. M3 2010. So the 2010 M3, more modern than the past M3. It's pretty much positive. This is basically my car. Mine's a 2011, but mine's just a 3 Series, not an M3, so there are some minor alterations. So, oh yeah, this looks more like my car's headlight or taillights. So imagine this car only having 2 exhaust pipes instead of 4, with the rear design being more basic. It's basically my car. Without the hood, my hood is completely flat. It doesn't have that. So yeah, that's basically my car. Basically, for all intents and purposes. So that looks nice. Now let's go find a pretty ugly looking car. So here we go. This is a full-sized SUV, the Range Rover. It has a very squared away look to it. I wouldn't say it's as bad and ugly as the previous SUVs we were looking at. It has that weird overhang spoiler, or whatever you call that thing, that sticks back past the rear window. I don't get that. It looks pretty basic. It has no sporty look at all to it. It does not at all look sporty. Some people like these for off-roading. The seats look sportier than the car itself, and I guess it's a pretty big insult. The sunroof on these things are kind of neat, and apart from that, yeah, the antenna fin on the roof is pretty sporty, I guess. I don't know, man. Like, this thing looks like almost no different than a Ford Explorer. Like, yeah, these are basically the Ford Explorer and this are basically one and the same. Nissan GTR 2017. Some people like these, I guess. It's got this classic style tail light style, those circular things. This car's alright. I would give this car an 8 out of 10. For styling, overall, I think this thing's kind of a shitbox. Not gonna cap with you guys. Okay, here's our first interesting one. Style points for the BMW i8, 100%, 10 out of 10. Highly stylish. I like the way it looks. The taillights, I've seen this thing in person. Now, it does have those, like, that taillight thing, and then it's that space in between. That is weird. That is some like PS5 alien technology nonsense that I just, for whatever reason, don't understand. Now, when I saw this thing in real life, I mean, I saw this thing up close. I saw the interior and everything. This thing's a spaceship. This is like an alien spaceship. It's like some Halo Covenant shit. Yeah, no, this car's insane. Now I'll get to a key factor here. This car is extremely slow. It does have like 369 horsepower, so it's like basically it's a Mustang. 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds, 420. Lol. Max max foot-pounds of torque is 420. Top speed is only 186. For the price that this car is, the fact that the hybrid mode is weird. Battery cars, and here's something we're going to get into when we talk about future cars. Battery-powered vehicles are getting more and more of a thing in today's world. So I guess we really can't really demonstrate anything else, because after this point it's all pretty much just super fancy cars. The extreme situation. The Pagani looks like dog shit. Like, who's gonna say that, bro? Not me. I'm not gonna say that. But what I will say is this. And of all the potential, like, modern cars, I'm noticing it's like Toyotas are pretty ugly. The Corollas, the Toyota Camrys, the Toyota Tundras, the Toyota, you name anything Toyota, and I just don't like it. I've been to a Toyota dealership. I'm not gonna lie, I'm just not impressed with their inventory. I'm just not impressed with what they have. I go to the used car section just to look if they have any other brands of cars. Like, I'm just not a Toyota guy. Toyotas are reliable. You can make that argument. But what we're noticing now, well, me and the boys are noticing, my group of guys, the guys I smoke cigars with and watch The Sopranos and play poker and stuff like that, my friends. The boys. We've been noticing a lot of things, and that's some trends in the modern car community. And those trends are pretty much have one thing in common. People are buying a lot of SUVs. I personally, if you've been around on the channel a lot, watching my Need for Speed videos, you'll hear me dog the shit out of SUVs. I just don't like the way they look. And the whole reason people buy them is they have this misconception that it's safer because it's bigger, it has a stronger frame, so if you crash into it, it's not going to be nearly as damaged as a smaller car. Well, I hate to break it to you, it doesn't matter how big something is. If it's not, depending on the material it's made out of, that's what makes the difference. They don't have a roll cage or all that stuff, all that nonsense, then it's not truly safe. No matter which way, if you run into a wall at 200 miles per hour, your car is just going to get crunkled. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Now, the varying degrees of crunkledness, I'll say this, with a big heavy SUV, if it has a really small 4-banger engine in it, if you take a Chevy Equinox, you can have a